Gobble, gobble, you son of a bitch. Happy Thanksgiving week. Welcome back to TLDR. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. With me, as always, is my hunk in crime. And together we are the Woodward and Bernstein of the DSG. Fryer, my guy. How's it going?
You know what's funny is I never know what you're going to say to start off the show, and you always have different things, and in generally I know kind of what you're going to hint at. I did not expect fucking gobble gobble to start today's show. I honestly didn't. That caught me off guard for sure. So well done.
Favorite, what is on your plate, Nicholas, for
Oh,
Thanksgiving?
okay. Always got to have mashed potatoes. Of course, you got to have turkey. Got to have gravy on both. Got to have corn. I prefer corn on the cob, but I feel like I usually get the niblets. I'm not the one making it, so I'm not going to complain. Either way is good.
Big
And
niblet
then
guy.
you are?
No, you are.
Oh,
Not
me.
me.
Yeah.
Niblets can fuck off.
Oh, wow. And then, of course, got to have stuffing. Other than that, I think there's like a veggie. I'll try if there's a veggie there. I'll try and find one to mix in, but I'm not really here for that on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
What?
get the corn out of my face.
Oh, wow.
No
Okay.
corn. I mean turkey,
Okay.
right? Turkey, potato, gravies, stuffing, copious amounts of stuffing.
Mm.
Cranberry sauce. We got two types of cranberry sauce at the Gilmore household. Just the stuff out of the can, and then
Mm.
my mom makes this orange cranberry, sauce. It's really delicious. Um, I mean, did I say cornbread? Got to have cornbread,
Oh, yep. Great. That's
right?
great call. Yep.
And maybe a little cornbread stuffing. I'll put two types of stuffing on there, right? Because
Oh.
we're gonna carbo load. And then do I have room for veggies on my plate? No, because I'll put some sweet potatoes
Ooh, that's a great
and
call. I don't usually have sweet potatoes at mine, but if
yeah,
they
no
if they're
veggies,
there, I want them. Okay,
no
yeah.
veggies, no veg.
I feel like we have something cranberry sauce I'm out on. I like craisins. I don't think I've ever had cranberry juice before. Maybe I have once and I did not care for it. But cranberries in general, like I'm just anything
Oh,
with that.
and King Hawaiian rolls.
What is that?
You never had a King Hawaiian roll?
I don't think so. No, I don't think I've
Oh,
ever heard of it.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, Nicholas. Go to the
No.
goddamn store right now. We're gonna put the show on pause.
Okay.
You
All
go.
right.
They're just little they're bread rolls, but they're a little sweet. They're
Okay.
delicious.
I
Delicious.
I'm half tempted to just get up and go since you've given me
I'll
permission
do
to
the
get
whole
up
show by
and just
myself.
and just let it ad lib. Because fun fact for everybody, Joe can't end the broadcast. I have the power to do that, but he just have to sit here the whole time. Like you could leave and just be
Oh,
my
you bring
screen.
swaggins on. It'd be a highest rated episode.
There you go. Yeah, that it
But
probably would.
go get some King Hawaiian. Hey, do this when you go. Bring a package with you to your family's house wherever you're going, right?
Okay.
And serve them up. You'll be the belle of the ball.
Oh, okay. All right. Nice. All right. I'll do that for sure. And I'm trying to find a way to transition into the big news that we got this week, but there really is no way to do it from Bell of the Ball to Noctera, kind of opposites, I would guess. But we found out from Scott had told us like there were plans and they were working on stuff, but he couldn't officially talk
Yeah,
about it
we
yet.
knew it was optioned, right? But we
Yeah.
just didn't know where.
Right. Where and then what was going to be. I think he told us it was going to be a show or instead of a movie. I couldn't remember.
I think so. I think he said it was going to be a show, but he wouldn't. He couldn't tell us.
Noctera's
Where.
had that vibe the entire time, though. It's felt like it's a show. He's building
100%.
this whole world, and we're just at the tip of the iceberg with this story. This is something like where we talked to Kyle Higgins about Radiant Black, where it's just something that feels like could go on forever over at Image Comics, 100%. Same thing with Philadelphia, feels like it could go on for a long time. And now it's going to do that in visual form as well. I guess in video form as well as a show on Netflix. Scott Snyder and Tony Daniels' story is going to be a Netflix TV show. Could not be more excited about this. And I think you were the one that notified me of this. This is friggin' outstanding news. This is, if you haven't been reading Noctera, we have the first arc already done. So go pick up that trade. Unless, of course, you want to wait for the show. Either way, going to be a must-watch show for us.
Yeah, and you want to listen to our interviews with Scott Snyder too. We had two of them about Noctera, and yeah, I came across this because I was I came across this when I did because I made the video for our post yesterday in the morning, but then forgot to post it until I got home from work. And so when I posted it, I saw Scott Snyder had just recently put the thing on Instagram, so I threw it on our stories. That was just awesome news. Can't wait for that. I mean, that's going to be a hell of a show.
Yeah, and we talk about how Scott was like our first guest on the show, and of course, look where we are now. Pretty much a year later at this point. This was right this time last year we had him on, and obviously, we love having him on. But that book holds a special spot in our heart too, because it was Noctera was the reason why we were able to get him on, because he was doing a whole campaign for it. Had him on twice for the book. After the second issue, I think we talked to him. So
Yep.
definitely a lot of insight has been provided from us and from Scott on this show. So we couldn't be happier. Can't wait to see what this looks like on Netflix. Another thing too that we did want to note before we talk about catching up too is Geeks Worldwide is doing a bunch of holiday gift guides, and of course there are plenty of good gifts from in the way of comics too. We've given you guys plenty of ideas over the past year. We're going to continue to do that, but make sure you keep your peepers popped, because there are different voices over at Geeks Worldwide besides Joe and I. And there's going to be this big grand holiday gift guide. It's going to have all the comics there. We'll have a separate comics post as well. But Joe, do you want to tell the people what AWA book you recommended for everybody out there, or do you want to leave it as a surprise?
No, I'll spill the beans. So out of the bevy of books from AWA that I've read and talked about on the show, I went with J. Michael Straczynski's The Resistance, because I thought that, I mean, that's not just a great like series, but it's a great introduction to AWA and the universe they've created there. And I thought that would be a great place for people who are maybe newer to comics or just new to the studio in general. Like, this is a great starting point. And then, the Resistance universe is you've got Resistance, Resistance Uprising, Resistance Reborn, Moths, Erratic, Knighted. That right there, that's just 6 titles alone that are within that universe. And then once you get your hooks in there, I mean, you're gonna want to read Bad Mother and Chariot and all the other awesome books we've
American Ronin, Archangel 8. I would see now
Hotel, right?
Well,
I mean, like,
that's what I was gonna say. Like, when you talk about gifts for all ages and anybody from any walk of life, I would say Hotel would be the one that I would recommend.
Oh, yeah. Swag is just reading it right now, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. The perfect person to be reading that. Absolutely. So I guess that maybe you're better at it than I am, Joe. I know I had to give a DC recommendation and a Marvel one. I'll let you guys wait on the DC one till that article comes out. But as far as the Marvel one, that's the book I'm talking about today. But we're getting ahead of ourselves now.
Howard the Duck.
Let's go. Yeah, absolutely. That would be, yeah.
I actually want to read Zdarsky's Howard the Duck. That seems really good, actually.
Yeah, why not? And do it on and talk about it on here if you really like it. All right, let's see. We have to catch up though before we go over to what's new. And you've been doing a lot of reading, even because you were pretty backed up last week, and you were behind on your book. So
yeah. So I unloaded a little bit, and I'm feeling a little freer, a little clearer upstairs.
That's great. I'm very happy for you. I don't know which way you're taking this, but go ahead.
But I didn't underline it, but I want to talk about this real quick. Is Radio Apocalypse #1 by Ram V. Man, it was awesome. Again, it's post-apocalyptic stuff, so I get why some people are like, I'm so tired of it. But what I find fascinating about all the different types of post-apocalyptic stories is how a particular writer, like, what is their vision? How are they tackling it? And with the use of radio stations, being the lone form of communication and all the things that happened just in that first issue, it was a solid first issue. I enjoyed it very much. I can't wait to read the second one, and so definitely recommend that. Darkhawk 3, which has been great by Kyle Higgins. I caught up on Blade Runner Origins number 7 and 8. That continues to be great. Gun Honey #3. I mean, I can't wait until the 5th book comes out so I could talk about it on the show. This book just gets better and better and better, and it gets naughtier and naughtier and naughtier. I mean, this book has it all, and it's been optioned for. I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, the naughtiness aside, like the lead character is so badass, and the story. So like I said, it comes out harder than a pistol in the first issue, and then just keeps ratcheting it up. And so been enjoying the hell out of that. And then Maze Book #3, Jeff Lemire. This is a slower book, like where Gun Honey is like at an 11 full throttle, go. Maze Book is it's typical Lemire. It's character building, it's storytelling. And while the first 2.5 issues where the pace was fairly slow and you're really just sort of like you're investing into this world, by the end of the 3rd issue, that's where it like starts to kick it up a bit and do that great sort of what I call that Jeff Lemire weirdness. and
Okay.
sort of takes it to where Jeff Lemire likes to go. So I've been enjoying the hell out of that.
So Gun Honey is so through 3 issues, you know for sure you're going to do it on the show.
100%,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Be careful because there's a
I
book
mean,
that
I knew it through after the first issue, but it hasn't let up.
I'm sure that it's going to hold true, but I'll tell you what, there's a book that I'm going to mention in What's New today that I thought for sure was going to be a TLDR worthy book, and it turned out to be solid, but not a TLDR book. And I'll get to that more later. As for me catching up, Joe, Marvel Dark Ages issue 3, are you behind on this, or are you?
I have to read the last
Okay.
issue. Yeah.
Okay. So this is I'm absolutely loving this series, and there's
Yeah.
like some serious ramifications. Of course, it's got like a Elseworld kind of vibe and everything. So they can. It seems like Taylor, which Tom Taylor, right? If you're gonna give him the reins, like he's gonna do some messed up shit. So make sure it's like not part of the mainline continuity too much. Although he is respecting Nightwing. But I love what he's doing with Marvel Dark Age. It's been a lot of fun. And then Lucky Devil 4, of course, from our guy Cullen Bunn.
That was wild, huh?
Yeah. Oh, so good. I think at the end of the first arc, this is a book where we need to set aside some time. Like we've done that with miniseries and whatnot, but Lucky Devil has just been so friggin' good that we got to figure out something. Like we got to figure out what we want to do because we need to expand on this more for the people when when that trade comes out because it's one of the best books out there. Like indie, big two doesn't matter.
Maybe that's what we'll do. When the trade comes out, we'll set aside some time to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to catch up with Colin. It's been a little while since we last spoke with him, and even when we talked to him, Lucky Devil and what do you call it?
The last book you'll ever read.
Yep, last book you'll ever read. But then what was the Boom book too? Because I feel like we haven't gotten
Basilisk.
Basilisk. We haven't gotten anything from that for a while.
We haven't gotten Basilisk in a bit. We haven't gotten Parasomnia in a bit.
Yeah, but with Boom, something's got to like. We know everybody's like having issues in the industry right now with publishing and stuff, but Boom must be going through some kind of change because it just feels like we're getting so much less from them right now. Like it's like Power Rangers, you have the House of Slaughter, and stuff. I don't know. But you know what? Speaking of House of Slaughter, let's move into what's new this week in comics. And we're actually going to kick it off with Marvel because Geeks Worldwide now has review copies from Marvel. Pretty pumped about that. Didn't have it before. Definitely that was the one big thing for us when we were making the move to Tuesdays on our streams versus Wednesdays. It's like, okay, what are we going to do about Marvel? Because we don't get those books in time. Well, we took care of that, Joe, and we picked a pretty freaking good week to do it.
Yeah, we sure did. There was a lot of number ones out this week, and I didn't get to read all of them. I read 2 of them, and
thankfully we both got it covered in the end.
There we go. There we go, baby.
Absolutely. So which one do you want to... Well, let me write off some of the other ones real quick. Yep. X-Men 5, Wolverine 18, of course, Death of Doctor Strange issue 3, and then Star Wars Life Day Must-Read Stuff issue 1. I don't know who wrote it, so I apologize. Whoever, if it's someone we have on the show. Which of the three first issues do you want to start with, Joe?
Well, let me start off with the title that I talked about last week in Hawkeye. So Hawkeye, Kate Bishop, number 1. Came out this week, and it's great. It's got the same vibe from the series that I talked about last week that came out 2015, I think. Just it's Kate Bishop. It's going to be a detective type story. She gets into some really interesting shit at the end of the first issue. So I enjoyed it. This was I didn't know what to expect. This wasn't high on my list. But because I read Hawkeye last week, I made sure to read it for this week, and I was pleasantly surprised. It was really good.
Nice. Okay, and I love how I feel like they've probably done this for a while, anyways. Like they definitely in recent years, but when we're getting stuff, the Marvel content in different mediums, then they start bringing stuff out in comic book form as well too, and then that guarantees we're going to be dealing with characters who like either we want to get to know more or we already kind of cared about a little bit. So us getting this Kate Bishop thing is great. By the way, I just checked quickly. Star Wars Life Day, not written by somebody we've had on the show.
Okay.
So I retract my apology. I feel good about what I said before. The other number one there was one that we both read, and then there's one that I also read on my own and actually reviewed for Geeks Worldwide, and that's Black Panther issue 1. And this is written by oh my God, is it John Ridley? Oh my God, yeah, John Ridley. And I went into this thing, okay, he's writing all the new Batman stuff and everything. I like some of it, but then it kind of petered off on me because it was getting a little slow. I know you were out on it for the most part. But then I don't know what we get coming into this Black Panther. I'm not sure what it's going to be. And right away I see the art and I'm like, okay, like I'm not a fan of this action. This isn't doing it for me. But I want to read the whole way through. I'm reviewing it for the site and everything. I got to read it all the whole way through. And as I'm reading it, the story itself is actually really promising. I really like the first issue because it's like conspiracy, espionage, spies, all that. And I'm like, okay, like
All right.
yes, I can fuck with. And we're dealing with T'Challa, who it's like now, are you on T'Challa's side, or are you kind of questioning what the hell's gotten into this guy? So I really think that this was I really like the direction of this story. I just think that no matter what, the whole way through, the action is going to be lacking the entire time. Like we'll get some, we're going to get it, but it's just not going to be necessarily. The art style is not for me.
Yeah.
When it comes to the regular stuff and people talking and just kind of walking around room to room, I'm cool with that. That's fine. You know, it's the art's okay, but the action just like
Yeah.
yeah. So a solid book. I would leave it at that. But I think we can agree on what the best book of the week was for Marvel.
Yeah, it might have been Hulk #1.
Holy shit!
You're a Hulk guy now, Nicholas. You're a Hulk guy.
Oh, it's amazing. You freaking put it in Donny Cates' hand. And it's, oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No,
now
that was the twist in this, or the premise, I should say, of this book. And what was the line? Are we allowed to say stuff?
Yes, yeah. The embargo's lifted. So
okay.
Yeah.
So one of the lines was, there was some narration going on right in the beginning, and it says, we always thought that Bruce Banner was there to protect us from the Hulk.
Yep.
But what if it was the Hulk protecting us from Bruce Banner?
Yep.
And you're just reading this thing, and you want to talk about awesome action panels, right? I mean, this whole thing, start to finish, this is a book to keep an eye on. Huh. And man, it was because I don't read much Hulk.
No, neither is Carrie. Well, the whole
thing, and I never would have picked this up if we didn't get a review copy. Maybe because it was Donny Cates, I might have picked up issue 1, but generally wouldn't have done it.
Well, with all there was these 3, and then there was Venom 1, and then there's The Thing 1. And I got Venom, I haven't read it yet, and I also picked up The Thing, but there were that was the week of the printing issue. So that my stuff kind of got thrown off, and I think the Venom's like a double size issue. All of these are a little bit bigger. They're like 32-page issues or some shit like that. And with the Hulk, I was like, okay, when we found out Donny Cates was going to get the Hulk, we were like, okay, we're probably going to give this. Well, you said, I guess you weren't going to give it a shot. I said I will give this a shot because Donny Cates obviously was outstanding on Venom, outstanding with King in Black. He has a ton of other awesome stuff. God Country is the only book I think we've done from him on this show. No, you did. What was there was an Image book that you did. I can't remember what it was.
Crossover.
Oh, Jesus. Well, yeah, Crossover. You did that, but was the Redneck?
Redneck.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you did Redneck. That was the other one. I'm just remembering that's the one that we couldn't get going on Twitch, and I think it's because of the name of the book. It was like offensive or something like that.
Yeah, because the title wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, not like don't shoot the messenger. I don't know what you want us to do. Anyways, I've never cared about the Hulk really. Like sure with Avengers stuff, and I like what Ruffalo's done with the character.
Planet Hulk and World War Hulk were both great books.
Sure,
but outside of that.
But it's just like in the end, I don't really care too much about him because it's like, this is a kind of a mindless. I know we've had iterations of the Hulk where like Professor Hulk and he's smart, but in general, it's just like this big like just it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing, and we don't really get to meet Banner. We don't know it just doesn't feel like it's just not for me.
Hulk's one note, right?
Yes, that's what it is. Thank you.
What do we talk about on the show all the time? Like layers to our characters, right? Depth. While Bruce Banner is a flawed, character, Bruce Banner is inherently way more interesting than Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
But Hulk's the star, right? They're not writing Bruce Banner books; they write Hulk books,
right?
And so, it's one note. It's Hulk smash. He's angry, and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what the MCU gave us, especially with the Professor Hulk stuff, there was a little something there, but all the interesting bits are with Banner.
Right.
And this book really, really, really dives into that, man.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, seriously, this is outstanding. I'm reading it and I'm like, okay, this is good start, whatever. And what you're talking about too with protecting us from Banner, you get that pretty early on. But then as it goes on, it's like, whoa, holy shit. Donny Cates, great for there are not a lot of times where we talk we get good first issues quite a bit. There aren't a lot of times where we're just like, this is a great first issue. This is holy shit friggin' outstanding. I think it's hard to do that. I think when you have a really good second issue, that makes a lot more sense. Like you've already kind of set the table in the first issue. Now you can kind of get going a little bit more, figure out your direction, and everybody's going to be able to follow along.
But expectations were sky high.
Yep. And but when it comes to a first issue, it's even with with characters we know well, I still think that's really challenging. And Kate's just went and been like, nah, not really. Like gonna fucking kick ass right out of the gate. So outstanding first issue. I recommend everybody pick that up. If you like the Hulk a little bit, pick it up. Seriously.
That's for you, Murph.
Yep. Who didn't like my X-Men team that I drafted, by the way, the other day. I had something to say about that. I had to look up what his reference was because I think Murph is an old, but whatever. Another conversation for another day. Let's move over to Image. We, of course, have Nita Hawes' Nightmare Blog issue 2, which Joe and I got to read a little while back. Of course, outstanding. Like, there's a reason we liked it so much early on. It's not just because we both read the first issue. We got to look at the first 3 issues. Yeah. Holy shit, right?
Yeah, tremendous stuff.
Radiant Black issue 10. So we're getting the review copy, so we don't have to worry about the decoder ring type stuff. But it's what they're doing, what Kyle's doing is really cool.
Did you read it?
Oh yeah.
Holy! You want to talk about meta?
Mm-hmm.
Right. You want to talk about out there, man? Like, because I'm wondering the whole time. Like, I had an inkling of what was going on. Like, okay, I get like what they're trying to get, and then because what's his name?
Marshall?
Not Nathan. Marshall, right?
Yep.
I get sort of what they're trying to get, Marshall, and then but when it happens, and then everything at the end, and then just the wildness of the art, the colors.
Oh, nuts.
Man, it was a brilliant issue, like from an artistic standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Story was really good too. But man, whew, nuts.
At the end of Radiant Black 9, you're left to think, because we can go on that now without worrying about spoiling anything. But in Radiant Black 9, you're led to think that Marshall's going to try and save Nathan because of everything that's happened to him there, right? And then he goes to we're dealing with all this in Radiant Black 10, but then it takes another step, and then we see another step taken, and that's where I was kind of like, holy shit, more than anything. I didn't and like. What's the craziest thing about it for me, though, Joe, is when I look back on it, do you remember who Kyle says he kind of relates to a little bit more as a character?
Was it Marshall?
It was Marshall, more so than Nathan. And I was like, reading all this, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I'll have to reread it again. But
it like when you consider that. So, we had Kyle Higgins on to talk about Ordinary Gods a little while back. And of course, we've been really enjoying that series. But Radiant Black, of course, is his number one book going right now. We talked to him about it a little bit. And there was that was a little tidbit that I like reading this. It's like, oh, okay. Wow, you're really like digging into yourself here. And I like that. So, really, really good issue. Of course, we had Time Before Time issue 7, Moonshine 28, Vinyl 6. Which did you? I know you were behind that.
No, so I have to read this issue, and I was like, I talked about like this book. I don't know why I still read this book, but this is the final issue.
Right. Okay. I'm interested.
So I need to know what happens, but I just didn't get a chance to read it yet. But
okay,
I'm expecting a doozy.
Need to make this your number one for catching up next week. If this is the only one that you have to read for Vinyl, then because I fell off on it because like it's funny, you were falling off it, and I said I was going to stay on, then you stayed on, and I fell off.
Yeah.
But I am curious. Like I don't need to know necessarily what happened. I just need to know if you end up liking the way it came together, and like maybe even your grade, because I need an idea. I know it's not a TLDR book, but I need to know where you stand on.
You want that out of pineapples?
Wait a minute. What? Out of pineapples? This is bullshit.
The Pineapple Boys.
Yeah, I know. Get the fuck out of here. We don't mention Billy on this show in any capacity more than we have to. It's like in our agreement when we decided you were going to do a show with him. Anyways, Sweet Paprika issue 5. I've been loving that series from Mirka Andolfo. I say all the time, like I feel it's like a dirty magazine every time. I think I'll have to talk about it on the show at some point. I really enjoy it, but also just because of how friggin' weird it is. So we'll do that another day. Two Moons issue 6, and then Girl Scout Stone Ghost issue 1. I don't know if I'm going to pick this up. I know Tara from Geeks Worldwide is going to be reviewing this, and she liked it a lot. So maybe I'll give this one a look. But
I feel
then,
like it's part of a series. Stone Ghost #1. I feel like maybe Girl Scout is a book, and this might be a spinoff, but I could just be making that up.
okay, we'll have to look into that some more because that's a very fair point. Actually, I ended up reading. I meant to tell you this. I ended up reading the first arc of Magic Order because that's available on Hoopla. I know they got the second one of that going, and it was really good. I think I'm going to talk about it on here at some point. But the #1 book. Well, I don't. I hesitate to say that because Nita Hawes and Radiant Black were huge, but my favorite book this week from Image was none other than Gunslinger Spawn. Of course, Todd McFarlane and Brett Booth. And as soon as I know I get critical about Todd with his writing sometime, and again I will say he gets critical of himself when it comes to it too. This was one where he did a really good job. This was perfect, and what was so I think when a Spawn book is really at its best, the art is what's driving the story. It's driving the plot and setting the stage for the larger things, and then like the dialogue and the narration is just kind of more so the narration is a little more complimentary. When the narration you get too bogged down in it, that's when you run into issues with Spawn books. And that's not at all what this is here. And the action in this is like, it is really like, it's really friggin' vicious.
Yeah, Booth really lays into it
Oh my
in this
God.
issue, and there's a couple of panels there where you just like, holy smokes! And just this issue, start to finish, like the first issue was great; it was a good introduction. This one starts at 11, ends at 11. It just pedal to the metal, foot does not come off the gas one bit, and it was awesome.
Absolutely loved it. Absolutely friggin' loved it. It's been I'm like I can't like with Spawn stuff right now. Like you can't say like, oh, I'm more excited about this. I'm more excited about that. Like King Spawn's been outstanding. Gunslinger Spawn is so cool and it's such a new thing. And then we're getting the Scorch soon too. And we're getting close enough to it now where Joe and I can tell you guys we've been saying, I think we tweeted out we're talking to somebody or we've talked to somebody who's involved with a book. You guys can take a wild guess at who it is. It's Sean Lewis, and we already sat down and had an interview with him. It went great. You guys are going to hear from us and Sean on December 15th. We'll be dropping that interview. That's the day that the Scorched is going to be coming out. And it was,
Hopefully.
Yes, that's the target date for when the book's coming out. They definitely when the audio is coming out, unless Image says otherwise to us. But holy shit. Like the way after talking to him about it, I think he says it's going to be 40 pages. As good as King Spawn is, this is going to be different, and it's going to be even more insane, it sounds like.
Yeah, he was giddy when talking about the violence that he is bringing in this book, which just had me all sorts of pantensity.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Cannot wait for this.
Yeah.
What about let's go to Boom. Speaking of them not having a whole lot going on, they do have one huge book that came out this week, and that's House of Slaughter issue 2.
So you talked about a book that you didn't know would be TLDR worthy. I don't know if this one will or will not be
Wow.
TLDR worthy. And I only say that because what made Something Is Killing the Children so great and so special was you had the horror elements, you had the action, you had the monsters, you had a character in Erica Slaughter that was really badass. And so with House of Slaughter, there's a lot more exploration into the Order of St. George, the House of Slaughter. You're getting a lot of the background stuff, and the character that it focuses around is names this. I'm having a senior moment, but the main character, right? He's mopey, he's flawed. There isn't any action. Like there's a good story there, and so I really have to see how this unfolds. Like this is going to be a book where I don't know how I'll feel about it until the first arc wraps up, because like Something Is Killing the Children had me from issue 1. It was high octane, it was terrifying, it was great from the rip. This is, as our good friend Keith would describe, a slow burn. And while there's interesting elements there and you're getting a lot of good background stuff, if I was new to this series, say I didn't read Something Is Killing the Children and I started with this, like I'd enjoy the first issue, but I'd be like, okay, how is this going to keep me going? So now I'm at the point where like you have to have read all the other stuff now, right? Whereas I didn't necessarily feel that with the first issue. I was kind of hoping like we'd start to get some action, we'd start to get some monster hunting. It's just a lot of So it's a slow burn. It's a slow build. We'll see where we're at. But like right now, I'm like, I don't think this would be a TLDR show.
A lot of people moving from room to room and just talking in different rooms the whole time. Is that what this is turning
Yeah.
into?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When
Pretty much.
when Donnie Cates said that in the what was it? He said that in crossover. I think it was I can't remember, but he mentioned that in the story, and I'm like, this is freaking perfect. It's so funny. I can't believe I forgot that you talked about that on here because I remember you're the one that told me about it. But yeah, so we've had 3 Donny Cates books that we've talked about on here, but yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I'm
good.
blown
Don't get
away.
me wrong, but I'm not like. It just doesn't have me like something killing.
You know what?
And
Tynan is the one that's writing this, right? It's not
well, I
co-writing.
don't think he's writing it. I think he's taking a
Ah,
McFarlane approach with Sean Lewis because
I
you
don't
got the
like.
script is by Bromble, and it's written by Tynan and Bromble. But with the script
Okay.
being by Bromble, I think Tate Bromble is the guy. I mean, Chris Sheehan's art has been tremendous. That's been the best thing about the book.
Sheehan does a good job.
I need more. I need some action.
Okay, see now that right there, that says a lot. That's got to be what it is because it's just and like I can't help. Look, I know he's your guy and everything, and I do think James Tynan does a great job, and so, but I cannot help but think like with all the stuff that's going on with him in Substack and all these writers have handled it a little bit different, right? Like Scott's handled it differently than Rodney has, and they've both handled it different than Tynan has. And then, of course, with Donnie Cates, he's doing some different shit as well. And then there's Chip too. Like everybody's doing it a little bit differently from one another. Lemire has Substack too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So everybody's got their own thing kind of going on. But with Tynan, he was one of those people, and he was like really, really pushing hard into it. It felt like from the jump, and I just can't help but wonder where you're like, last house was a nice house on the lake was the last issue was good, but it would have been better served at ending at issue 5. And then you have this where it's like, and he's not even the one who's running the show; he's co-writing it. I just can't help but wonder, like, I can't help but be concerned. I guess, like, is this?
I think. I mean, my feeling is that he's put all his eggs and all his energy into Substack, and everything else he's put like. Batman. He's just about done with Batman.
Right.
Nice House on the Lake is now on a 6-month. Like everything that he's been doing everywhere else, he's pretty much receded from, and everything is now Substack. Right.
Yep.
Like so, you see it now with Something Is Killing the Children. He's passed off the baton. He's Joshua Williamson Joshua Williamson's doing Batman. And so like Lemire, Zdarsky, Cates, right? All those guys, they're doing a lot of great Substack. Snyder, they're doing a lot of great Substack stuff. But we just read Hulk #1. He's not receding, right? Cates isn't receding from all the other stuff, right?
Yeah, Cates isn't. It's obviously Scott's doing his own thing over at Comixology, but he's still got Image stuff that's going on too, because obviously he's invested immensely in Noctera with everything that's going on there, and we're still getting books. We're still getting Undiscovered Country. I know that came back. Was it 2 weeks ago? I don't think I put that in my catching up, but I did catch up on that one. And then Chip's got a ton of stuff going on, and then Rodney's doing more at Marvel now. Like he's doing all the Star Wars stuff now. He's got the Mandalorian, which we had before everybody else did. I'd like to remind everyone of that. But yeah, so it's just that is. Have you noticed it on Department of Truth yet? Actually, now that we're talking about Alex with Tynan.
No, because he hasn't. Department of Truth hasn't come out in a couple of months, and now he's got a series that's a tie-in to Department of Truth through Substack. So,
okay,
right,
interesting.
So that's, I mean, like he's the one that's really pulled back.
Really
pulled back the reins.
Rodney has that one that he's going to do on Substack that I'm very excited about. I know he gave that first issue out for free to everybody of the Gunslinger in Hell that he's got going on, but at least he has a second one over at Image too with Nita Haas, like we talked about earlier. So. And he's not slowing down with Philadelphia. That's too bad. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. We got Dark Horse. We got it was Joy Operations issue 1, Hellboy the Silver Lantern Club issue 2. We don't have anything for Dynamite this week. Why don't you take me through what we got from Aftershock, IDW, Comixology, and everybody until DC actually.
Okay, so Aftershock Beyond the Breach #5. This has been a phenomenal series. I can't wait to pick this one up. IDW Usagi Yojimbo 24. Again, it feels like it's been a little while since we got an issue of that, so I'm excited to read that. Comixology, this is the one book I'm really upset I didn't get to today.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. I was busy, Well, we got this Marvel. We literally just got the Marvel
Right.
thing, so I
Right.
wanted to read a bunch of Marvel. But
Of course.
Night of the Ghoul #2 by Scott
Mm.
Snyder and Frank Avella,
Mm-hmm.
who's been putting out some dynamite art on
Yeah.
Twitter lately, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then AWA, we have the last issue of Fight Girls #5, the last issue of Moths #6, and then the penultimate issue of Marjorie Finnegan Temporal Criminal issue 7.
Mm-hmm.
So usually we get those books ahead of time. We didn't get those this week, which is a bit of a bummer, but we'll grab those and talk about those next week because those are 3 banging books
Yep.
right there.
I'm excited. You think Fight Girls will be more than likely a TLDR book?
I think so. I need to see how it wraps up.
Okay.
But I think so. And then lastly, from Vault, we have the last book you'll ever read, #4. And you want to talk about naughty and scary? I mean, this one
Yep.
checks all the damn boxes.
When you were talking about gun honey, I was like, okay, naughty. Like this, Joe's got to be careful because now he's got last book you ever read, and he's got gun honey. The missus is going to start asking some questions.
Yeah. That's for damn sure. Got to keep these boxes, keep these books in the boxes.
And then we move over to DC before we get to your book this week. We have Harley Quinn issue 3, Superman 78 issue 4. Of course, you are reading Detective Comics. We got 1045 this week. For me, we got DC versus Vampires issue 2, Task Force Z issue 2, which I did not feel great coming off of that first issue. That's one I'm going to have to catch up on for you guys for next week. I like the first issue of DC versus Vampires. Deathstroke Inc. issue 3, which I reviewed for Geeks Worldwide. This was you have Deathstroke on a goddamn unicorn. I mean,
that's awesome.
I don't know what else. And it's like you have that in the first few pages, and then shit gets really dark by the end of the issue. Like so you haven't read a single page of this yet, right?
No.
This is definitely shaping up to be a TLDR book. I know I've already done a Deathstroke book before, but if you go and read my review, like I do talk a little bit about how this is like has similarities to Priest's run that I did talk about on here, but it's still very, very different, and a lot of that has to do with the R2. But that's a conversation for another day. Really enjoying that series. Also got to read Aquaman, Green Arrow, Deep Target issue 2, another good issue. So first 2 issues, that's Brandon Thomas, who of course writes Excellence, which we get about 2 issues of that a year. And Joe and I, of course, love that book. Like, I don't mean to but it's like I get people are busy and stuff. And I know he's getting a lot more work over at DC, but like Excellence is definitely the best thing you're writing.
4 issues in 2 years is a little, especially when it came so hot. It came out so hot.
And I mean, Kerry Randolph's art too. Like, look, John Boy actually talked about, right, when we had him on, like how he wants to write more, or he wants to do more stories. Like he likes doing the cover work and everything, but he wants more stories. Kerry Randolph is a guy who he's done a lot of different stuff, but if I just see him doing mainly cover work, that's a problem. Like I need to see more of his work in interiors. He is that friggin' good. Yeah. But he does have a lot of different shit that I want to look into. Because he has books a lot of times that he draws that seem to say something all the time, and that's usually what we talk about on here. And then of course the last book was the one that I also reviewed for Geeks Worldwide. This was the book that I said I thought was going to be a TLDR worthy book, and by the end of it all, I feel a lot differently about it. Not a lot differently. I just feel like it's not TLDR worthy. I think it's still a good book, and that's Batman Reptilian issue 6. Viewed this for Geeks Worldwide. I thought the ending was good. I thought that it wrapped up well because this Ennis story, I talked about it early on, and I said how like Ennis and Liam Sharp's art is outstanding the entire series. But Ennis turns Batman into like this real menacing like character and this monster. And we haven't gotten that in so long. And I like that. I do. Like Ennis is doing it though, of course, like poking fun at Batman and what he's done, and how some people like to say that Batman is like he goes after the mentally ill, like the criminally insane, but it's also like people who are not well. And I do think that's an interesting commentary. I do like that, and I still enjoyed when I look back on it, I think it's the first 3 issues I still enjoy very much, because I do think sometimes we need to see Batman kind of look like a monster. And I love that DC wants to poke fun in a way at their like legendary character, their moneymaker. But when I go and see that, like when I get to the 4th and 5th issue, that's where things kind of dragged on me. That's where I had the issues, and that's where I was just like, it's been it was really rolling. And then there's stuff that's addressed that we need addressed, and the stuff with Killer Croc and everything. In him possibly what happened. Well, I don't want to spoil things for anybody, but like what happens with Killer Croc, you need to address that kind of stuff. But it's like the way that Ennis went about it, it just like it kind of felt like it dragged at times, and it felt like the direction was lost a little bit. We get to the sixth issue, the issue this week. I do think that he gets back to Batman kind of being an asshole, kind of being a dick, being a bit of a monster, and that's good. Like that's what I want from this, the series on the whole. So you take out probably fourth and fifth, or you condense this into a 5-issue series. I think that I really like this in the end. But in the end, I probably give this series like an 8, maybe like between an 8 and a 7.5, I would say at the end of it all. And it's just because those two in the middle drag a lot. Probably lean more towards 8. So maybe like a 7.8 on the but still a good series, but not good enough to talk about on this show for sure.
That's a bummer because it's Batman and Ennis. So
yeah.
you hope for fireworks, and it sounds like it's an enjoyable book, but man, I wish it just had a little bit more.
Yeah, just those two men in the middle that just made a huge difference. It really did, because I'm asking myself like, what's going on? Like, what are we doing here? So it's if you don't like Batman, it's definitely like if you like Shime is not a big Bruce Wayne fan. I will say for someone like him who likes a lot of DC stuff and Batman adjacent, but not necessarily Batman, you're the person who wants to read this. Or if you like to see Batman kind of taken down a peg, this is a book for you. But I cannot go and tell you all this is an outstanding book from start to finish, like we talk about with all the other books that we do on this show. Speaking of which, it's your turn to talk about time for you to talk about your book for this week.
Well, you forgot another book that came out this week, dipshit.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
What?
Robin number 8.
Oh, that's right. That piece of shit rag you've been talking about for months. Oh, is that the book that you're talking about today?
It sure is, baby.
Oh,
it sure is.
No. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. So bad.
Oh, hold on. Swaggins wants some gummy bears here, so I am one to oblige.
Well, yeah, you can't. I mean, come on.
There you go.
Gummy bears take priority over the show. There's no question.
I think you want to say hi, kiddo, before I get going.
Oh yeah.
She just told me to kick rocks.
Oh, come on. 3 weeks in a row now. Unbelievable.
I know. She's a diva. What can I say?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Right. But gummies do take precedent over the show. There's no question. Oh, there she is. Oh, that's all we get? Okay. All right. Unbelievable. All right.
We are back on track, baby. So, yes, if you've been listening to the show at all for the past several months, you know that I've been high on this book, and it is the biggest surprise book for me of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And that is Robin from DC, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Gleb Melkina. I just butchered that. Gleb
Melnikov.
Thank you. I had it right the first time. Letters by ALW's Tony Pateri. So this book first came out in April of 2021 and is going on. What's so funny? That's Friday.
You said his name wrong. It's Troy, not Tony. So. Yeah, I wasn't going to correct you. I wasn't going to say it out loud. But yeah, you got that wrong too. So you're batting 1,000 today.
I am batting 1,000. Well, right before I was about to talk about my book, I had to have Nick stall for a few moments. A little something came up. So I'm back. Okay, let's try this again. Written by Joshua Williamson. Art by Gleb Melnikov. Letters by ALW's Troy Pateri.
Yes. Okay. We're back, baby.
We're back.
All right. What are we talking about again? I forget.
Yeah. So this book debuted in 2021 and is 8 issues in, which is coming out this week. And it has been stellar right from the get-go. And I think what turned me on to this book was, I think it was like the backup story in either Detective Comics or in Batman. I can't remember which one, but it was a quick 2-part little series, and involved Damian and Talia. And I go, ooh, this has potential. And so when Robin 1 came out, I grabbed it and I said, yeah, this is going somewhere. I'm enjoying the hell out of this. So I was absolutely stunned that I like this book because, like I said about Hulk, right? I'm just not going to pick up a Robin book and read it. And here we are in 2021, and now I've got 2 Robin books that I'm reading, right? This one and Lemire's,
yeah,
right? So,
right, if you're gonna read a Robin book, it would be a Dick Grayson book. It makes a lot more sense. But Damian Wayne, no,
yeah,
no.
well, that's the thing.
But here we
I've
are.
never been a Damian Wayne guy
Right.
because, like, the way he's always written and portrayed, whether it's in comics or in the movies, he's an annoying little shit.
Well,
He's an
so you're
arrogant.
saying that he used to be a piece of shit, but he's not anymore?
Well, not just Joshua Williamson's figured him out. His
Wow.
hair's
Okay.
not so slick back no more.
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah, he has more spike now. Okay, nice.
yeah,
That's good.
more spike. No, but like his character. And we want to talk about one note, right? That was Damian Wayne. He was just
Right.
an arrogant, snot, POS. You just wanted to knock his teeth out. Because I know that was just me. I was like, I have to,
No, I agree with you. He was a
right?
good. I thought he was an interesting complementary character. I like his dynamic with Jason Todd. I like his dynamic with all the Robins, honestly. But not a character who I would think could hold a title on his
Right.
own. And you told me from day one, like, Nick, you got to read this, and I never did. And I keep seeing all the art on it, and it's like this. Gleb Melnikov's stuff looks great.
Yeah. Yeah. And the art's fantastic. So before I dive too deep into it, synopsis: after learning of the Deadly League of Lazarus tournament, Damian Wayne has a new mission to win the tournament and prove he is the greatest fighter in the DC universe. But first, he must find the secret to where the island is and where the tournament is being held. So, like, the premise
Okay.
of it is great. So, like, the League of Lazarus tournament, it's a tournament. It's a to Mortal Kombat style, right? To figure
Mm-hmm.
out who the greatest fighter is. And of course, it's perfect for a character like Damian Wayne because he is arrogant. He does think he's the best. And of course, he would want to find this tournament, one, not just because of, what it means to win it, but also the family ties, right? You can't have Lazarus anything and not have the Al Ghuls, be a part of it. And, it's his birthright,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, what like that alone, the premise, okay, that makes for an interesting story. And what Joshua Williamson has done with this character I think he's really figured him out. He's not just a one note character anymore. What you get, what the way Joshua Williams has tackled Damian Wayne is that he's part Bruce, he's part Talia, and he's part Alfred, right?
Okay.
And so, like, you
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of the detective stuff that you would expect to get from Bruce. You
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of the fighting and the aggression stuff that you would get that you'd expect he'd get from Talia and, by, relation, Ross, right? And then there's a little bit of humanity to him that he gets from Alfred,
A little bit.
right?
Okay.
And so, like, he's not just like, there are moments where he's definitely arrogant and you get that classic sort of Damian Wayne, but there's also a little bit more of a human side to him. And there's an issue with him and all the other Robins that was probably one of my favorite issues in this arc so far. And the moments and the emotional moments that he shares with Red Hood, that he shares with Dick Grayson, and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Like, it was a really great moment. And there's moments that he has with some of the other characters where it's like, okay, all right, there's more to him here. And so the League of Lazarus, as I was saying, it's this sort of Mortal Kombat, tournament where it's basically you 3 strikes and you're out. So you can die up to 3 times, right? But if you die that third time, you're not coming back to life. Right. And
Okay.
so there's a shit ton of fighters on this island, all trying to become known as the greatest fighter. And so right off the bat, right at the end of the first issue, Damien dies. And you haven't figured out the rules of the tournament yet. And you're like,
Wait,
what?
what?
Yeah. And so, like, your jaw is just dropped at the end of that first issue. And what the shit? And then the second issue, you learn the rules and what's going on, and then from there, it's just like, again, it's high octane, and it's just,
Holy shit.
yeah. I told you. That's what I told you. That is when I told you. I said, Nick, you got to read this book. And so, because you don't expect it, it comes out of nowhere, and then, like, okay, this is what the tournament's all about. And so, at first, you think it's just going to be, a 5, maybe 6 issue story, and there's gonna be a winner declared at the end. That's gonna be it. But this book is actually so much more, right? The motivations of the characters, of the fighters, what's really going on the island, and what's going on with this League of Lazarus tournament. It is so convoluted. It's not the word, but like
There's a
it
lot of
goes
layers to it.
exactly. And so now you've got Damien on this island, and this is where the detective stuff comes out, because now he's trying to figure out what are the true motives of all the players involved, and it's so good, Nick.
Huh.
And so like what's cool about the island is like they tell you there's rules. Like there's certain areas on the island that are off limits. So like the fighters can go get some sleep and not have to worry about getting killed. But like from sunset or sun up to sundown, basically if you're on this part of the island anywhere, like you could be attacked at any moment, and then your match starts, and like you'll die. So the first time you die, you come back. Now you're down to 2 lives. And the thing is, it's like after a fighter dies twice, they have the option of bowing out, because like I said, if you die that third time, that's it,
It's
finito.
real. Okay.
You're dead. So that like plays into it too. And so when Damien first dies, at the end of that first issue, it doesn't count. It's not part of it because the tournament hadn't officially started yet. But his interaction with the character that does it is great, because this is where you get that that Damien that's just full of hubris, that arrogant, I can't, and then just boom, it happens, and you go, what? Huh?
What?
And
That's
so
awesome. I'm
yeah,
I'm like, look, it usually doesn't take that long for you to get me in on a book. But like I'm in. The second you're
yeah,
like he dies at the end of the first issue, you're like, huh?
yeah, and the manner it happens, and the lead up and the build up to it. I mean, Williamson is killer. There's a reason why he's writing Batman now, folks. He's really effing good,
That's what I was going to say.
right?
So he obviously, we've talked before about how he killed it on Flash. Like we're not Flash guys,
Nail
but
biter,
everybody,
killed it.
right, of course, nail biter. But every Flash fan that I know that read his run at all really liked it. I read the first arc of it and it was really good, but it's just TLDR. So like, there's just too much. Well, I guess there's too much out there. I guess is a better way to put it, not TLDR.
Yeah,
But anyways, you get my point.
yeah,
And it's so that hearing him dominate with Damian Wayne's like, okay, so Batman's probably in pretty good hands at this point.
yeah.
Like there should be no reason to question it. But one character who I saw the artwork for in this series too, sprinkled around on Twitter was Rose Wilson, Ravager too.
Mm-hmm.
So how is she in this series? Is she like
Awesome.
around a lot?
So yeah, she's around a lot. So I was just about to get to some of the characters here. So the major players, right? Obviously, Damian Wayne, but Ravager. You get a lot of Ravager here,
Hmm.
and she's great because she's sort of, you don't know exactly what her motives are for being on that island,
Good.
right?
I like that.
And she's there as sort of a guide for Damien in a
Hmm.
way. So there's some really great elements there with her. Respawn is on there. She's a real badass character. Flatline, she's a lot of fun in this book. She's sort of like, Damien's, like, I wouldn't say his biggest adversary, but like she's there to knock him down a peg or two, and she
Oh,
tries to do that a lot.
okay.
Then there's a mystery character who, if you on Instagram and you scroll through the art, you'll see a picture of this character. I don't want to give it away. I'll show
Okay.
you.
Okay.
And when he makes his appearance, you go, "Oh, who dis? Who
Okay.
dis?
Okay.
Oh, that's I like this. I like where this is going." And so that really changes the tone of the series and where it goes.
Oh,
And
okay. So that's the
which
cover that's one of the covers you're talking about as a
Yep.
character.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nick's peeling through right now.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then you've got
Okay.
Mother Soul, who is the person running the tournament, and Damien's trying to figure out what this woman's deal is. What's
Hmm.
the real reason for the tournament? And so this is now where it really kind of kicks it up a notch. It just goes from being a fun book, Mortal Kombat style kind of thing, to something a little more nefarious, something a little deeper, which is great. And so, um, issue 8, the issue that has dropped as you're watching this or as you're listening to this.
Mhm.
This is where you really get the big reveal of what's going on. And then where, the direction that it's going to go in from here. There's still, I feel like, so much more to explore. I love the detective work that Damien goes through, and the journey that just the personal journey he goes on from, where he starts to where you are currently in the 8th issue. Gleb Melnikov's art again is fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Francis Manipal's cover art on a lot of these variant covers is tremendous. Like, this is just an absolute home run.
So when you told me like I got to read this book, I think I'd seen the artwork for this series a little bit
Yeah.
already. But seriously, Melnikov stuff was like, huh, okay, Joe likes this, and this looks pretty cool. Like the
Yeah.
artwork on this looks really good. I like how Damien looks. I like how Rose Wilson looks. It's like, okay, I think Joe was onto something. I obviously did, I think after the second issue, I said, if you think this is a TLDR worthy book, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to read it till you talk about it, because I've waited too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, this sounds like I don't like, this isn't really fair to you, I guess, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Like I kind of feel like you even underplayed it a little bit. Like you tried to sell it on me hard, but like you're not. You obviously you want to keep details from me as you're recommending this book. When it's early on and everything. Holy shit!
Yeah.
This tournament thing sounds amazing. This
Yeah.
sounds like animated movie quality type idea
Oh
that they need to
yeah,
run.
this would make a tremendous DC animated film. And there's just, there's one issue, I can't remember which issue it is, 5 or 6, where they need to off a lot of these characters, and so it's just panel after panel after panel after panel of characters dying. It's awesome. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in on this, Joe. 1000%.
Yeah.
This is I knew I was gonna like it because you were talking about it. I just had a feeling that I was gonna. But man, this is better than I expected.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by this.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, we're gonna do this is back-to-back weeks for us that we're doing a Marvel book. Is it 3 weeks in a row for us we've done a Marvel book? I can't remember, but either way, we tend to have like these like weird like ups and downs where we stay away from the big two and then we do like a lot of big two at once. And oh, look at this, Mr. Hypocrite. You go and do a Robin book and you're wearing a friggin' Marvel shirt as we're doing this. That is unbelievable. Did you do that on purpose? There's no, I don't care what you say. No way. I don't.
100%. I had this shirt folded and put aside after I busted your nuts about it last week, and I had to make sure I did it.
Well, see, now I know you like, because I know you don't fold shit. Your wife does all the folding for you.
Oh
So,
no,
boom.
this got folded. It's still wrinkly.
Well, I didn't say it was. I didn't say it didn't get folded. I just said you don't fold it. Your wife does. But anyways, regardless, okay. I am doing another Marvel book for this week. In light of all the X-Men stuff that's been kind of going on in the DSG, I wanted to talk about an X-Men book that I've hinted at doing in the past and haven't gotten to. With Wes over on Change My Mind, we had Casey Walsh on from Geeks Worldwide, where before Disney Plus announced the X-Men 97 animated show, he told us on the show that something is coming, something is in the works. Lo and behold, we find out that that's the case. And then, of course, Doc and I just did a draft over on Mac and Goo, where we picked X-Men characters and built our own X-Men teams. Looks like Goo's going to end up winning that draft. Really looks like it's going to be Goo all the way at the top, me all the way at the bottom, and then Mac. Well, Mac's got a pretty comfortable lead on Joe as well, but I really like Joe's team in it. I liked Mac's team a lot too, so I think Goo's just like, he goes and picks Beast and Charles Xavier. Like, I'm sorry, I know he had the two probably most popular X-Men characters, but if you're gonna go and vote for his team when he still has those two, Beast and Xavier, like, I don't want you voting for my team then. In the end, is what it comes down to, right? I mean, I don't know. That's how I feel. But anyways, Mac asked Joe and I, is there a good X-Men book to read if you're a fan of the cartoon as we're getting ready for the new cartoon series to come along, or the extension of the one from the 90s? And there isn't one that picked up right where things left off at the end of the X-Men show, although I would bet we're talking about, different comics coming out as shows and movies are coming out. I would be willing to bet good money that we're going to get something that leads us back into this show somewhere down the line. Or it's going to run adjacent to the show. But for now, you guys have X-Men 92, which came out back in 15-16, and it actually originally started out
16.
2015, 2016. That's when that's when it ran. Sorry. Yes, fair enough. But it actually started out as a Secret Wars limited series, like tie-in, which I'm not talking about that part of it, but that's how it started out. Joe and I like to, complain about that sort of stuff, but there is proof that good things do come out of those once in a while. when it's a separate title. Like, that's how you got to do it. Make it a separate title, make it its own thing, and then we're going to be a lot more open to it, as opposed to, going and doing the main lines and then bringing it in, like with Nightwing, right? You've talked about that a bunch recently. With X-Men 92, they after they were part of Secret Wars, they get their own 10-issue series, limited series, and then we have for the writers, it's Charles Sims. I thought it was Chris Sims. You asked me if it was Chris Sims, didn't you?
Well, because because that's why I was. I swear to God, League of Comic Geeks has Chris Sims.
Okay, then maybe there's a chance that I wrote it down wrong. Either way, and Chad Bowers is the other writer. The artist is Alti Fermancia, who was the artist for 9 out of the 10 books for the series. The 5th issue is drawn by Corey Hansher, and I'll get to that a little bit later, why that was the case. And then colors, we have Matt Milla, and letters Travis Lanham. Synopsis of the first trade, because there are 2 trades for this series. The X-Men of a more extreme decade are back in highly animated adventures. With Cassandra Nova defeated, all the young mutants she'd rounded up are being welcomed into the officially reopened Xavier School for Gifted Children. But a crowded class schedule still allows plenty of time for extracurricular antics, especially when Omega Red shows up with the formerly Soviet super soldiers. But for every ending, there must be a beginning. Prepare for the terror of Alpha Red, plus the machinations of the Fenris twins, the danger of the Darkhold, and Dracula. And in a very special celebration of one of comics' greatest love stories, Scott Summers and Jean Grey share a romantic getaway to remember. With those 2, right, we get the whole 90s X-Men roster minus those 2. So we have Professor Xavier, we have Beast, who I just bashed, Wolverine, Storm, Gambit, Rogue, and Jubilee, plus 2 people who were on the team that I drafted, Bishop and Psylocke. I don't think we ever saw Psylocke, or maybe we saw her briefly in the course of the animated show, but we obviously saw quite a bit of Bishop. It was him and Cable were the 2 futuristic guys that we saw a lot of.
She was definitely on the animated show, but not featured a lot.
Right, definitely not one of the main characters, but was absolutely a main one in this one. With that 5th issue for Jean and Cyclops, after the events that took place before this series, Cyclops has quit the X-Men, so he's kind of off doing his own. They're off doing their own thing. They're on this romantic getaway, but of course, shit happens to them, because it always does. May or may not involve Mr. Sinister, shock of the century. And then we also in that series see Rachel Summers and Cable, and this series is absolutely perfect for people who love the animated series and haven't read comics in ages and want to get back in, or people who are excited about the show but don't necessarily know a lot about the X-Men. And this could be for anybody. Like, if you're looking for nostalgia, if you're new to comics, if you're new to the X-Men, this fits, I feel like, for everybody. And that's why I think this is the ultimate Marvel comic book gift for people right now, given we're going to be getting the X-Men show in 2023, because it gives you a vibe for what the show was. Now, there's a lot of, we've talked about it before with the show, there's a lot of social commentary. It is about something. It gets deep. This there's a little bit of stuff in there, but it's even more subtle than I would say the show was. It's more just kind of having fun, with a lot of chaos going on, a lot of issues that they're dealing with, villains and whatnot. But it's more just, hey, let's, this is a fun little read. You kind of breeze through it pretty quickly. You get to see your favorite characters do a lot of cool stuff, and it all looks very much like it's pulled out of the show. I want to say the pages of the show. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And Joe, so many friggin' X-Men characters featured in this. We see Omega Red. We see Red Guardian. We see there are a couple of other Soviet characters that we see. But then we also get Fabian, Cortez, Gladiator, Shaw, Maverick, Fitzroy, Mystique, the Brood. And I'm just getting started. We see X Factor has Havoc, Polaris, Multiple Man, Forge, Strong Guy, Wolfsbane. Then Adam X gets thrown into the mix. And then we also see Maggot and Marrow and Random. And then who else is there? Oh, Joseph, Apocalypse, Oh, and guess who else is back? We said she was gone. Cassandra Nova shows up. Then Cable, I mentioned before, he comes in another issue outside of when he sees his parents. We see Shatterstar, we see Archangel, we see Deadpool, and Domino. And I feel like there's a couple that there's absolutely a couple I didn't mention in there. Oh, Dracula's there. Oh, fucking Dracula. That's right.
Jubilee.
I mentioned Jubilee before. She's there with she's there throughout the entirety of the series with Professor X, Beast, Wolverine.
Dazzler.
I don't see any Dazzler. So if you're a diehard Dazzler fan, you're shit out of luck. But this first issue is like in the first arc. What we're dealing with outside of that fifth issue with Wolverine, with Cyclops and Jean, is we get to meet the Soviet Union's real answer to Captain America, because we've kind of seen that over the years, like with Omega Red and then Red Guardian. Of course, recently we've heard that kind of stuff too, but this is supposedly really what the answer was. And that's over the course of 4 arcs and 4 issues, excuse me. But it's, again, it's all kind of similar where like that's more, it kind of deals with a grander thing, but it's a little bit more concentrated. And then like not grounded is not the word because it gets pretty freaking crazy. But the second arc is definitely where stuff like really starts getting nuts, and you really see a lot of characters come into play by the end of it all. Oh, you know who else makes cameos in this? There's a bunch in the last issue, but 2 that really stood out to me in that course of that was Spider-Man 2099 and Punisher 2099 too. Just cameos. But it was like, holy shit, like you even got these guys in here too. So it's just like a fun little, like, it's good to, it's something, you and your kids absolutely could read it together. Like you and Violet could read this absolutely 100%. It's making you afraid of vampires, but that's it.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of vampires.
Okay, I was talking about her, but yeah, I should have considered you, and if you're going to be afraid or not. My apologies. What a friend I am. But yeah, so I this is a good way, like, plain and simple, it's a fast read. It's a good way to, get a little nostalgia or just get used to what this show was like, because it very much captures the essence of what the X-Men animated show is. That if you ask, most of the guys in DSG, they'll say it was their favorite, comic book type property as a kid, or it's what got them into it. Mm-hmm. I know that's the case for me. Did it get you into it, or was your favorite thing as a kid?
Both.
Okay.
Because I was, I loved Superman, but I wasn't necessarily reading a ton of comics.
Right.
And then when this show came out, is like, all right. And then like it got me obsessed with X-Men. Then that got me obsessed with the comics. It got me obsessed with the gift card. I mean, the trading cards that came out.
Oh yeah, those were
right.
Awesome.
And then so like from there, because I mean, when this came out, what was it? 93?
92.
92. Right. So
that's the name of this book.
Well, sorry. I was just thinking of the animated
I
show.
I know.
So 92, yeah. So I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's just the right age.
Right.
Right. When that shit, really kind of gets a hold of you. That's how old my nephew is now, and he's all into comics now. So that show was everything.
That's another group of people that if you're a parent who has a kid that's like, if you haven't already introduced them to the show, what are you waiting for? Or if they're just, you want to introduce them to comics and let them kind of figure out if they like it in the end or not, I would say this is a great place to start. I still think this is very much for anybody who loved the show and was a kid when the show came out. Yeah. But that is the perfect audience to give it to, like a kid who likes all this Marvel stuff, and you're like, maybe you'll like reading this stuff too. Like dad or mom likes this. Give it a shot. And this is absolutely something that they could end up reading. And then if they don't like it, then you can go and read it for yourself. Who cares in the end? It's getting read. But yeah. So that's the second X-Men book I've talked about on here. X-Men Red is a little bit, it's definitely younger audience can appreciate that too, but definitely adults will appreciate that more. I would say, but yeah. So and that was a Tom Taylor book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So can't usually can't go wrong with X-Men stuff. Although as much as Joe and I have had like our issues with the some of the more recent stuff, but it's not because of the quality of the books. It's just the data pages.
Yeah. There was a couple in this week's X-Men book, by the way. I had to skip over.
Yeah, we're gonna stop the show before we go down that rabbit hole, because for the sake of your health, I'm gonna make sure.
And it's Chris Sims, by the way.
It is Chris Sims. So I wrote it down wrong. So okay. Well, I got confused because of the freaking quarterback. So okay, whatever. All right.
Yeah, because I said, who wrote this? Chris Sims? And you go, what? No, what the hell is he?
I was like, huh? It is. That absolutely happened. Not one of my better moments. Anyways, speaking of not our best moments, what's going on with the Pineapple Boys this week?
So we have. So we just did the reviewed the Psych 3 movie last week, which was just okay. Just okay, unfortunately. Had some really good moments, but it was lacking a bit.
That's too bad.
So this week, Psych season 3, episode 11. Lassie did a bad thing, and because Thanksgiving is Thursday, we will most likely do it on a Friday.
Okay, nice. Damn it. Yeah, they have Thanksgiving. I feel like it's on Thursday every year, but
It
I don't know.
happens, but they
Yeah,
really threw us for a loop.
I hate when it's it's better when it's like a Tuesday. You know what I mean? It's been a long time, but
Yeah.
anyways, all right. I think it's now time. The show is now over.
Yes.
Joe. All right. So make sure everybody have a happy Thanksgiving, Joe. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. As if I'm not gonna talk to you 5 minutes after the fucking. But you got anything fun planned?
We're gonna head to my parents' house. Swaggins and I have to bake another pie today. We'll do that after this.
Nice.
And we'll head to my parents. We're gonna try and hit the Museum of Science on Friday. Have a good time. And yeah, how about you?
I am going to be going to Connecticut for Thanksgiving, so holiday with the lady friend's family. So very excited.
A big one. That's a big deal.
It is. It is a big deal. This is the first time, actually, in general, that I think I've not been with my parents for Thanksgiving. Even in college, I was able to come home from Chicago all the time. So yeah,
they're never going to let you live it down.
Well, Jake's not around either, so they can get over. If they, well, I guess maybe they like me more than Jake. I don't know. That's a whole. That's a conversation for a separate podcast. All right. So until next week. Have a happy Thanksgiving and stay sexy.
You know it.